Alright everyone, welcome back to another episode of All the Mod 6. I hope everyone's doing great today. I know that I am, as always. I have some coffee with me this morning as I am recording, so I'm going to be sipping on this. Hopefully you guys have some snacks or a drink that you can enjoy as we get our way through this episode today. Gotta always have some coffee. Alright, so if you guys remember, in the last episode, or for those of you who tuned into the last episode, we have been progressing on our bee setup, and we have made some progress. We have learned some things, we've had to tinker with some things, and I'm going to show you something that might be useful if you guys are going through bees as well and running into some problems. So, when the pack first came out, the bees were not updated to the place where they're at now, the bees mod, the resourceful bees mod, I should say. It has since been updated. So those of you who are jumping into it right now, and maybe referencing certain videos on YouTube of other content creators who have been playing through it, or who played through it maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, whatever it may be, their bees are going to look different. The main thing being, the textures for the bees have been updated, which is really cool. They look awesome. I believe I referenced it maybe in the last episode or something like that. But you actually get textures on the bees. Like for a gold bee, you're actually going to have gold lumps on top of the bee, which is really, really cool. Whereas before, early on in the mod pack being available to the public, it was just a very standard bee that had a wrapped texture around it. Nothing additional on top of it. So a cool update nonetheless. But anyway, the issue that I ran into, and maybe you guys are running into as well, could have been updated by now, but if you breed the bees, the baby bees of those specific types of bees that have additional 3D textures on the top of them, if they get up to a ceiling, that texture will actually lag into the ceiling or clip into the ceiling, and then cause them to take damage and eventually die, which is not something you want, especially when you are going down maybe a very strenuous path of trying to craft, or trying to breed, I should say, different types of bees. So, I have a solution on my end. Like I said, maybe it has been patched since since now, or since I even implemented this, because it has been maybe about a week since I actually got this up and going, or just a couple days, I should say, since I got this up and going. So this is the bee sanctuary here. I'll run you really quickly through some of the things we've done before I show you what I got put in place to help with our little baby bees. So I probably should first and foremost sleep through until the daytime, because the bees really only like to be out in the daytime, the morning time. At least most of them. Some of them will be out at night. So there we go. We are out here. As you can see, we got our RGBs going at it in here, crafting up some honeycombs for us. In this one, it's our lapis bee. You can kind of see the little guy just hanging out back there. In this one, we have a redstone bee. Both of those are ones that obviously have those additional 3D textures. And then finally on the end here, we actually have a gold bee. And as you can see, they each have their respective blocks on the ground. Oh, I guess we had intruders. I forgot. Our mine colonies had some intruders. I was doing a little bit of prep for this video ahead of time, and a few of our colonists ended up dying because of it. We will get back into mine colonies. There's a few things I want to do with it, but obviously we've been jumping into bees. I've been really having a lot of fun going down this path, and mine colonies can just be tedious at times. But anyway, so as you can see, we have a whole bunch of bees set up, which is awesome. Now, I did get some automation put in place. I'll get to that in just a minute. The other side here, we don't have any bees in here. I did shift this. This was our, like, breeding room, because obviously you want a space where you can have the bees breed together and then give you whatever you are looking for. I have switched it. It is now this. So this is now our breeding room and growth chamber. It sounds really weird, but it is what it is. And very much like the whole entire sanctuary on its own, it has been dedicated to Aranos 1988. I'm probably mispronouncing his name every single time, but I do appreciate him. He is a follower here, not only on YouTube, but over on Twitch. If you are interested in checking out a Twitch live stream, the link is down in the description below. We do stream on Mondays and Fridays. But he suggested a very, very good idea when we were running into this problem on a live stream, and that is to implement fans into the ceiling. So the fans that we are using, I'll pull them up here in our crafter, are from Cyclic, and they just push entities. So more so, probably the idea behind them was to use them for like a mob farm, I should say, not a mob spawner, but a mob farm. And obviously for us, we're not using it in that case. We are just using it to keep the bee from clipping into the ceiling. And it's actually very, very convenient. It works awesome. Now, this problem that I am mentioning, I should also preference that it only applies to baby bees. Once they get full grown, for whatever reason, they seem to be perfectly fine. It's just when they are a little baby, and there is that growth time on there. You have like over 1,000 seconds that you have to wait for it to grow up, and that is a long, it doesn't seem like a long duration, but it is a long duration of time that they could potentially be clipping into the ceiling. So what I'll do is I'll show you how this works real quick with one of our newer bees, an ender bee. We did go to the end and get an ender bee here. So I actually have this hooked up to be automated here. So I have a create wireless transmitter hooked up to this button here. And then up here, as you can see, just very plainly out in the open, I have some redstone connected to all the fans, so you can turn it on and off, because realistically there's a potential for some lag and things like that, and you don't really need it on all the time. It's really just when you have a baby bee in there that is you're trying to grow. So what we'll do first is go through our air chamber here, close it in. We'll put our bee down here. So we have our ender bee. As you can see, he can come up to the ceiling. He's not bothered. He doesn't have additional textures, but he can go all the way up there. The other thing, you know what, he's actually not a good example to use because he does teleport, and we're gonna have to figure that one out. Let's just use a rocky bee here because he won't teleport out on us. So he's in here. Let's hop out of here just like so. Pretty easy, but he could go anywhere he wants to in there. Now, if we turn our fan on, it pushes him down to the ground. So he can't get above that second block. He can pretty much go the base bottom block and then maybe kind of one more up, but if he tries to go any higher, he gets pushed down. Now, not with enough force to actually hurt them. That's the nice thing too, and we do actually have this set at a pretty high spin speed here. Where you at, buddy? There you are. So if we go into here, there's a couple settings for it. For us, obviously, I have it required by Redstone because we want to be able to turn it on and off. And then on top of that, I have the speed to max, and then the range to the lowest. You could set the range up higher if you were working with a higher space, like a taller ceiling. But for us, we only needed to go one block. And so that's this block right here, roughly in this space. So if he tries to go any higher, or B tries to go any higher than this, it'll get pushed back down. Now, the other thing that we were running into with this, not only with the ceiling, but with the sides as well. I was using glass panes, very much like what we were using in our other chambers here, as you can see. And if we come into here, you can see there are these little ledges that occur when you have the panels. And with those ledges, the bees could bump up against that and get injured as well and potentially die. And that's obviously not what we wanted. So I did go to full glass blocks on our growth chamber over there. So again, shout out to Orenos1988. Thank you for the suggestion, and hopefully you guys out there who are watching, maybe this will be beneficial to you as well if you are running into those problems. So moving on from there with our bees, we did get some automation up and going, like I said. And obviously we have upgraded our looks a little bit more as well. We have some nice lanterns in here, some of these warped fences, which just add a very, very nice aesthetic to it. But as you can see behind me, we've added in not only automation, but the ability to interact with our refined storage system over here as well. So if I open up my refined storage system, as you can see, we can access anything that we would need over here, which makes it super easy. But on top of that, we can link items back into it. So a couple different things that we have here. So first and foremost, right here, we actually have an elevator. So a hidden ender elevator. It's actually a really cool trick. I didn't know you could do this, but you can actually make these grass paths. If you are looking to put an elevator in a grass path, just a quick tip here. You can actually make these via a solidification chamber. If you take grass blocks and some water, you can actually make these up and then use them to disguise elevator blocks, which is really, really cool because that is a feature of elevator blocks, is that you can disguise them. But just a cool tip there. But anyway, so we have our basement area, which was dug out here. And we have a couple different things going on. So first and foremost, you might notice we do have power hooked up here, going out via universal cables, which is very convenient. These then go up and they go into an item user. So these item users are directly below our beehives, and they are facing up towards them. So the interface that the item is being used towards is pointing upwards towards the beehive. Makes sense. That's the direction you would want it to be in. But it's pretty straightforward. These do require power. That's why we have power run to them. And then all you have to do is put in the tool that you're going to want to use. And for us, that is a scraper. So it is pretty much set for us. I have our tick delay a little bit higher up, just because the time frame for when bees are actually producing enough honeycomb for the scraper to be able to work. So I have it at the max. Now, if you're producing it a lot quicker, you might want to bump it down a little bit. I also have it set to always on, so you don't have to, worry about it going off. Or if you wanted to hook it up to a system where you can turn them on and off, you could do that as well, or a clock or something. I know people will do that a lot, where they'll use a clock under it, like a deployer and a clock or something along those lines. But this one is pretty nice, and it's very useful. It's very easy to do. Now with these, it does scrape them and then just plops the honeycomb out, so it doesn't get held within an inventory. So that creates obviously another problem that we needed to solve. This place down here is not 100% completed yet. Obviously, we still have some rough walls here of stone and dirt that we need to get finalized, but we do have some prismarine and raw quartz blocks from the nether, which are really cool. Really cool aesthetic, and it's all dug out to be able to handle all the different ones. So yeah, so that item user right here, item user, scrapes the honeycomb off, and then it just drops onto the ground. So you might be wondering where it goes from there. Well, from it getting dropped onto the ground, we have an item collector. This might not be the most efficient way to do it, and you could actually have multiples of these item users if you wanted to increase the timing of when you're collecting things, but let me show you how it works. So you can actually show the preview here, and you have two different options in here. So first and foremost, always on. Obviously, you always want it to be running. It does not take power, which is super nice. And then the item collector has a height adjustment and a area adjustment. So obviously your area would be, for us, we have a 21 by 21, but let's say you're working with a 9 by 9 or a 3 by 3, you could bump it down to that small space. From there, you have the height, so it'll show from that point downwards what you are collecting, and that is how we have it set up for ours. So for ours, we have it going 3 down because it's set 3 blocks high up, and then a 21 by 21 because, as you can see, that back wall over there, it is a little bit finicky when you try to look at the capture area, but that back wall over there is being captured within our radius here, within our area. So it goes all the way out to that side, all the way out to that side over there, as you can see, and then captures everything in between. And basically what this will do is any item that is dropped, hence honeycombs, it'll collect up. Now, it does go through a pattern from my understanding of how the block works itself, where it goes row by row, block by block to pick things up. But the despawn rate on honeycomb isn't like super high, and it seems to work very quickly. I haven't had any problems with it yet, but again, if you were worried with it, with capturing all of the honeycomb that is getting dropped, you could put an item collector on every single room, or every maybe 2 rooms or something like that, depending on how your setup is. We can turn this off then. And so from here, I am just pumping all honeycomb collected into our refined storage system. Now, you're not going to see really any in here other than our RGBs, because obviously our RGBs we can't put in a centrifuge or anything like that. We use them to make different dyes, which is extremely useful, and I did get a bunch of patterns set up in our refined storage system for the different dyes, which is awesome. So then from there, they go into our refined storage system. And then what I have it actually doing is hooked up with an advanced exporter into our centrifuge, just a normal centrifuge. I believe there's other ones. There's a bigger multi-block centrifuge that you can get up and going, I know. But for the time being, I think we're pretty much fine with where we are at. Yeah, I think that's the only one that we can utilize right now. Once we get the big elite centrifuge multi-block up and going, it'll be a little bit different and we'll adjust things, but we're going to do the same thing with the apiary in a different episode. So anyway, We have a advanced exporter going into our centrifuge. The centrifuge, as you guys know, is utilized for taking honeycombs and producing byproducts. So, for example, our gold honeycomb would be transferred into gold, as well as probably some honey in a bottle, and maybe even some beeswax as well. It just depends on what the ratios are. Each honeycomb is different, so look at what your honeycomb can produce in a centrifuge if you are curious. So how is this set up then to know what needs to be put in here? Well, that's where the advanced centrifuge comes into, or the advanced exporter comes into play, because you can actually define what you want to be carried out from your refined storage system into the inventory that it is hooked up to. So for us, I have redstone honeycomb, gold honeycomb, and lapis honeycomb as well. Those are the three ones that you could actually get a byproduct from a centrifuge that we currently have. Now I also have glass bottles in here, and you might be wondering why. Well, again, one of the byproducts is honey, so you do need these glass bottles in here to collect up your honey. So that all goes through here, and it's very, very quick and convenient. Actually, the centrifuge itself isn't super quick, but it works. So it'll go through here, and then from there, I'll have to hop around back here to show you guys. From the back side of it, we have an importer, which imports all of that stuff back into our refined storage system. As you can see here, importer goes up back into our network receiver. Now, you might be wondering what this crafter is for. Well, if you think about it, all of that honey in a bottle that we are getting is just being accumulated, and all those glass bottles are being wasted, and you would have to keep producing many, 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 many glass bottles to keep up with the pace of all the honey being produced. So instead, we have this crafter up and going where it takes all of the honeycomb, or the honey bottles, I should say, and transfers them into honey blocks. Now, when you do this, see if I can get in here and show you guys. When you do this recipe here, it actually gives you the 4 bottles back. So then, once it goes through here, and it's very similar to the advanced one, I just used a normal importer though here. Or a normal exporter. It's on the bottom side of this crafter here. So very much like this, but just with less slots, because we didn't need that many for it. So on the bottom, I have a exporter into here, and it's just for honey bottles, defined like that. So they'll all automatically go into here, get crafted into honey blocks, and then get imported back into the system. Not only the honey blocks, but the glass bottles as well. So, a lot of talking, a lot of stuff happening here, but I think it was worthwhile to go through it, considering probably from here on, we're not going to have necessarily as many bee episodes. We'll probably just give updates as we are maybe breeding different bees and maybe getting different things up and going, or until we actually get the big multi-block centrifuge or the big apiary as well. So, then you might be wondering, well, we're already like 20 minutes into the episode. What are we going to do now? I already got it planned out. So there's a few things that I would like to be doing that we can round out the second half of the episode on. So first and foremost, over here in our main base, I've set out some areas here, as you can see, over there and then over here as well, for some more villagers. So it's not like the most efficient way to set them out. There's definitely way more efficient ways, but this is like our hub, our marketplace hub, our travel hub, just, you know, our hub for a lot of things here. So I wanted it to look aesthetically pleasing, and I feel like this is a very, very nice look here. So we do have our toolsmith here. If you guys didn't realize, I had a lectern here for this guy when realistically I needed a smithing table for him here. But he's good to go. We've been getting some emeralds from him. From a coal trade and from our iron trade here. And I have a few more items laid out here. I do have some lecterns down here to get some librarians. We have a composter for farmers, and then another smithing table for another toolsmith, because I want to get some more villagers here so we can get some more emeralds. We are extremely, extremely low on emeralds, as you guys know. And what I want to do is get some of our POWAH stuff upgraded, and I actually want to go down a path of switching out something we worked on quite a bit ago that we really haven't touched since. And that is down here in our cool setup, is our big reactor. So we got this guy set up, and I mean, he has a good amount of power stored in it. I did not realize that this thing is online. That is actually not good at all that it's online. What the heck? Okay, it's all uranium in there, and then all cyanite. What is this thing stuff used for? Turbine reactors. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to shift off of this. Oh my god, it's extremely warm. Why is this thing on? I thought I turned it off. Please turn off. Thank you. Holy smokes. That thing could have exploded and just destroyed. I think that's how it works. It could destroy a huge area. But anyway, so I wanted to switch this bad boy out, actually. So bigger reactors is pretty cool, but the POWAH mod actually has some pretty cool reactors in its own. So right here, you can get a bunch of different reactors from POWAH, and they're each their own tier, so you don't necessarily have to craft the first tier to get to the next tier, or the next tier to get to the one after that. You can just jump in right away to whatever tier you're going on, which is really, really cool. So this is our end goal. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to it today. Obviously, I would love the highest tier, which is the Nitro tier, because it can store 80 million FE or RF, and it also can extract almost a million RF per tick. It's 800,000 FE or RF per tick, which is pretty good. Not as good as our solar panels, but I feel like this space has been extremely neglected. I don't really feel like going super far into bigger reactors, and I think the POWAH one is a little bit cooler to get into. So that's the plan for the rest of the episode here. If we could also get some batteries to upgrade our storage here, our power storage, it'd be awesome. And as you can see up here, I did move these solar panels up here because I was worried about possible glitches with our other dimensions and having to reset them. So anyway, so I'm going to get some stuff done here, get some resources gathered up, and then we'll go from there on our end goals for today's episode. All right, guys, so it has been a little bit of time here. I did a bunch of work to get to where we want to go with getting our POWAH reactor up and going. So I did ultimately tear down the bigger reactor. Again, just I'm liking the POWAH mod. Like, it's really, really fun, and I just like the aesthetics to it. I like the colors and things like that. As simple as it may sound, just to have, you know, colors be a reasoning behind it, but I really enjoy it. So currently right now we have some nitro, I should say, crystals going in our energizing orb here. They're just taking their dandy old time, getting up and going. But ultimately, as you can see, I did go with a spirited reactor because holy smokes, this thing does take a lot. So you do need 36 of the reactor blocks in general, which means per reactor block, you're going to need 4 of these capacitors. Now, for the Nitro one, it is exactly the same. So you would need 4 of the Nitro capacitors. So right there, you need 4. So you need what? 36 of those divided by 4. That is a 9, and then 9 times. Obviously, so yeah, you would need 36 of the Nitro capacitors, and then each of those will require 4 Nitro crystals. So times that by 4, you would need 144 Nitro crystals to get up and going. Now, if you guys break it down even farther, each time you go through this, you only get 16. So divide that by 16, you would have to go through the process of getting Niotic crystals 9 times. You would need 9 Wither stars, or yeah, 9 Nether stars, I should say. 18 blocks of that, and then 9 blocks of blazing crystal, which doesn't seem too bad. But on top of that, you also do need 20 million FE or RF for each one that you go through. So 9 times that, it's 180 million, which doesn't sound all that bad, but it does take a very, very long time. Now, comparatively, you know, the Nitro will store about 30 million more, and it can produce actually about double what our Spirited reactor can produce right now. But we're going to start with the Spirited, get introduced into the reactor on its own. Why jump all the way to the end when we don't necessarily need to right off the bat? We're going to try that. And then maybe down the line, we will switch over to the Nitro one, because that would be kind of cool. But it's not like we really need that big of a power generation, to be completely honest. So, as you guys can see here, we did go ahead and actually switch out our aesthetics over here. I made it look way better. At least I think it looks way better than what we had before. So we got some of this Gabbro brick in here. And then I actually did connect this through. So now we have a nice little path that goes all the way around and leads us right back to our bees, which is funny because I was seeing that part of this was not claimed on our chunks here. So let's just get these claimed in here. No, yes. Okay, I think it's just not showing it properly. It does that sometimes. For some reason, it just doesn't show it. Even though I have claimed it, it won't necessarily pop up right away. Now, I didn't move things all the way. You would think that this would be your elevator down. Well, no, it is still over here. I would have had to bump out our pathway a lot, bump out everything a lot to get it over here. I mean, you would have had to go, you know, to that way, over this way, and I'm just like, it's fine. It is what it is. So basically, hit an elevator right here will bring us down to our whole entire reactor space down here that we did a long time ago. Now, as you can see, our old reactor is now gone. I have a little bit of a setup going here. So below here, I do have an ender cell. This ties into our whole entire ender system. So we have, what, 246 million FE or RF in there, which is quite a bit. And then what we could do with these bad boys is you need to have all of them to place them. It's not like you could place 1 or 2 or 3 as you progress along. You have to have all 36 in order to make the reactor. So all we got to do is click just like so, and it's going to form it all together all on its own, which is super nice. And just like so, we now have a reactor, which is really cool. I'm not 100% familiar with how everything works on it. It does look like we already have water into it, which is perfect because that's how I had set it up to pump water into it. I don't know if the power output is going to work in the way that I would like it to work, but I wanted it to be symmetrical, obviously. And we're also obviously going to need to check below to see if it is pumping into our system properly. So I did put in another elevator to get down here. And as you can see, we do have this, but the only way we can really test is if we were to go to something that didn't have like a loss of power. Well, actually, it's not going to be generating power right now because we don't have any fuel in there. That is the other thing that we need. So taking a look at the book, there's a couple things that I skimmed over when we looked at it earlier. So the reactor is a multi-block structure, obviously. It uses uranite as its main fuel. Goes into the structure in general. So when generating energy, the reactor heats up, causing it to consume fuel faster and generating less FE or RF per tick. So you need to cool it down using coolant like water, but you can also use solid coolants like ice or a snow or something along those lines. So keeping the reactor buffer full of fuel will help with better production, obviously. And then there's 2 additional attributes that you can have in here: carbon and redstone. So carbon materials such like coal, wood, etc. will improve the fuel efficiency, and it'll add a higher temperature to it though. So better fuel efficiency, higher temperature. Redstone will speed up the production of power, and it will increase fuel consumption, and it'll also add 120 degrees to it. So all in all, if you were to do both of them, you're adding, what, 300 degrees Celsius to the overall reactor. You obviously would want to be cooling that down. And then the reactor will stop when it is full of power. And it will start when it has less than 70% of the energy if the auto mode is on, which is pretty cool. It's kind of interesting how it works. I'm super excited to test it out. So let's get in here. We are going to need our uranite right here. Now, if you are curious how you get this stuff, it's actually pretty straightforward. I believe all you have to do is smelt up uranite, the raw uranite, in a smeltery of some kind, be it redstone, be it smelting factor, whatever it may be. You can see all the different options on the side, and that will give you your uranite. Now, obviously, the better the raw uranite is, the higher yield output you'll get. So, but we have this. We could throw it in here. It's going to bump that up. Obviously, the temperature is greatly increasing. And the auto mode is off. So we'll want to turn auto mode on, obviously, because we want it to enable and disable where it is appropriate to do so. Now, as you can see, it is greatly generating a lot of power here. And we can also check out the interface here. So facing up would be an extract. This is input output. So it's actually not even, which I don't know if water works that way. I think water can just go in wherever. And is it then powering these bad boys? So that one looks like it has power, and that one looked like it regen power as well. So we should be good to go here. It did reach 350 degrees Celsius, so that does seem to be the max right there because it's not greatly increasing over that. But we are getting slowly up to that max capacity point, which is perfectly fine. What we have to do from here then is expand our ender power in general so we can actually store it and hold on to it, because obviously we want to be able to store as much power as possible. And there's a few different options for that. Not only can we expand on our ender universe, our ender wireless space that we have going on through POWAH, but we could also get something different like a gargantuan flux storage from Flux Networks to store things temporarily as like a buffer. So that's always a possibility as well. Now, we are at the end of the episode here, but let's really quickly check out what redstone would do, as well as coal, because obviously it mentioned that. I think in order to do these though, we would definitely want to have ice, and we would definitely want to get a production of some kind up and going. I believe redstone was at the bottom, or was it at the top? I think it was at the bottom. And you know what? It's actually not going to use it because it's already filled up with power. We would need to grab some of the power out of here in order for it to work properly. Luckily, I do have my jetpack here. So what we could do is we could store some of the power within the jetpack just like so, and we could see how this works. Oh, it's not below 70% though. I see. So if I turn this off, will it start generating auto? No. Okay, so it'd have to get even lower for it to work. Very, very interesting, because that 70% capacity is like a hard cutoff point, I guess, then. So hang on, let me try to move some power around. Let's see if we could get this testing and working properly. All right, guys, so we are down here. I did clear out some of the power within the jetpack. I do have, what is it called? A energy discharger, which I have set up to pull power from items back into our system. So that's what I did. I just pulled it out of there, and it's just a buffer. It was a 4 million RF buffer within there. And we're going to grab this bad boy. We're going to throw it in here, and it should bump it down to the 70. I guess not. Wow, we really have to get it pretty far down in order for it to kick off there. So it kind of seems like, unfortunately, what we're going to have to do is just wait until next time, because unfortunately, I don't have another way to produce power unless we expand our power setup, and we are already at 30 minutes. So unfortunately, that is going to have to wait for the next episode. We do have it in process. I am going to expand our energy cell here so we can generate even more power from here. But other than that, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the episode today. If you did, feel free to leave a like down below. Helps me out so very much. Or if you want to leave a comment, I do try to read through all of them and respond where I can. If you are new here, you do want to follow along, definitely hit that subscribe button and bell notification. It'll let you know every single time a new episode is posted here on the channel. I do stream over on Twitch, like I mentioned earlier. Link is in the description down below, along with the link to our community Discord if you feel like joining in, hanging out, and chatting with a cool group of guys. You do not need to be a part of a Patreon. You don't need to do anything like that, but obviously we have some rules over there, so please just be friendly and polite if you do decide to join into the Discord. Other than that, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy.